coming to you live from the Sound System Studios, Dallas, Texas.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I don't care if I never get...
Holy cow!
Baby water! Baby water!
We have finally made it Super Bowl Sunday in the NFL, and I really don't even have to say in the NFL, just have to say Super Bowl Sunday, and you know what I mean. It's almost a worldwide event now. You get your cheese dip ready, you get your pizzas ready, your chili ready, all your chips, your dips, whatever you do, your hot wings. It's the day where you eat a lot of food and you have fun. You drink some beverages, whether you're drinking water, Coca-Cola, alcoholic, it doesn't matter. You're having fun with your friends. It's Super Bowl Sunday, baby, and I cannot wait to get into the preview. New England Patriots versus the Seattle Seahawks. And yes, of course, we'll talk about the game, what the commercials may hold. We'll get into that in just a few moments. Also have to talk about coaching carousel here in just a bit, kind of finish that off, which it certainly will be finished off after the Super Bowl, as we could have some candidates in the Super Bowl tonight coaching for some positions that are open, positions, if I can say that right, and you have some players that have to make some decisions, if I can say that right. We got some free agents out there. Peyton Manning, what's he going to do? Nick Sue, a lot of free agents out there. Are some Broncos going to come back? Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas. So we'll get into that here in just a little bit. Of course, big-time Dallas Cowboy fans are worried about DeMarco Murray, Dez Bryant coming back next year. Got to get in, though, to another topic later today. Tiger Woods. My man Eldrick, I love you, Eldrick, but we got to get this swing change going in a hurry, and I think him playing a lot will certainly pay dividends. We'll also get into some basketball later today, NBA news. We'll get some NCAA basketball topics out there for you as well, and the story of the week hits me close back home, being from Little Rock, Arkansas, so we'll get into that story of the week also to cap off the great day that it is. It is up next. Thanks for listening. Josh Smith, your host here. Certainly, let's get back to that Super Bowl preview. Super Bowl 49. Next year will be a great one. I can't wait for 50, honestly. It'll just kind of cap off 50, big round number. Anyway, back to today's topic. Patriots-Seahawks. Great game. Of course, I wish my Broncos were in it. They just looked pathetic. Overlooked the Colts. And I read a couple articles just to get to that where they just kind of, the whole season, they were a better team. A lot of them admitted that, and Demaryius Thomas had an article where he came out. Point being, they just weren't prepared this year. They didn't have the same hunger as they did last year. But I'll tell you who does have the hunger, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. They've been playing extremely well and extremely aggressive like they did to end the season. Really, last year they did the same thing. They played the whole 2013 season at the beginning of it, kind of mediocre, playing better as the season went on. To end the season, you saw how they ended the season, of course, how they destroyed my Broncos in the Super Bowl. This year, same thing. Kind of started the season, kind of teeter-totted, didn't know what you were going to make of the Seattle Seahawks. Next thing you know, they win their last 6 games of the regular season, going to the playoffs, taking care of business. Same on the other side. Patriots, really the same thing as the Seahawks this year. Started the season, you can say the same thing about the Seahawks and the Patriots. 3 to 4 or 5 weeks in, you don't know what to think of either of the teams. You think, okay, maybe they're stuttering, they're back and forth. Especially halfway through the season I know the Seahawks, maybe, are they going to go 8-8? They maybe not even finish 500, right above 500, especially a division that they were in. You take a look at the Patriots, same thing, beginning of the year. Remember, everyone was questioning them. That's what I always say about football seasons, but I know that's, of course, what analysts and people like me have to do, create controversy about what's going to happen with these teams at the time that they're playing. Well, Patriots got it together, same as the Seahawks, and you saw how they ended the seasons, playing better than any teams, by far the top 2 teams. If you had to do power rankings in the NFL, teeter-tottering between 1 and 2, between the both of them, if I had to rank the 2, and I'm sure if any other analyst had to do the same as well. Seahawks getting back to running the ball very well, keeping it balanced with throwing, and when they had to, what does Russell Wilson do? Well, he can scramble with the football in his hands, make the defense pay, get a first down when he needs to with his feet. Vice versa with with Tom Brady, they decided to start bringing, which I hope that the Broncos do this coming year with Kubiak coming back, which we'll get into later. The Patriots learned to bring in more linemen, whether it be tight ends or this new look that they've been doing, confusing the defense, which, hey, I like the look. Now that I think about it, and I thought about being maybe a coach at one time, and this is something I'd learned to do. Not really even bend the rules, but hey, if I can set up different people in different positions, and as long as they're on the line of scrimmage and other people are off the line of scrimmage, guess what that equals? That equals that it's fair and that I can do that. And that's what the Patriots have learned to do, bringing in more help for Tom Brady, confusing the defenses, who's going out for routes, who isn't, are they going to run the ball, and especially bringing who I like back, the running back with Blount, whatever you want to call his last name. The big man can run the football. You add that in with their other little scat backs, and they certainly are back to the Patriots of old that won their first few Super Bowls where they weren't throwing it 30, 40, 50 times a game. They might throw it at most 30, but they're going to run it and pound it down your throat and throw it to the tight ends and these no-name, pretty much people for the most part. I mean, they don't have really any big names. They got a couple of guys like Edelman, yes, who's kind of created, which they always have there in the Patriots world, created their own wide receivers. Wes Welker, other guys that they just fill the slot and they get open and they catch the ball. Then they kind of get a big guy on the outside, and then it's a bigger body as well, as then they got Brandon LaFell from Carolina last year, and that was a great pickup. Look what he's done on the outside to open up the middle for people like Edelman. Of course, you add in Gronk, who I don't have to get into. He's a beast. So then you add that into what the Seahawks have done in their offense. Now we'll go to the defensive side. The Seahawks have certainly proven lately how they can certainly do what they did last year. Shut down the run, make you throw the ball, and then they have the people on the back end to shut down the throw, the pass game. But you have multiple people going into this game that are banged up. Chancellor's banged up, Sherman's banged up, and Thomas, they're all banged up. Great guys, all pro, certainly every year worthy of going to the Pro Bowl, which anymore is just kind of like a fun game, but it used to be kind of more of a thing. You were all pro and went to the Pro Bowl, especially if you got both honors. You certainly used to. Well, anyway, you get my point. They're banged up in the secondary, so I think my point is some of this game. You never know how it's going to go. Any game, that's why they make the movie Any Given Sunday. Same with boxing in a fight. Basketball, though basketball usually in a series like this, it's in the finals it's 7 games, so on and so forth. That's why I like one and done. Hey, you get one chance. This is you prepare for one thing. You either win or lose. That's why I really love NFL or a boxing championship. I love the NBA and so on and so forth, but I love just giving it one game. One game, you're the champion. You get one game to decide. Given this one game, if it goes the way you would think most the games would go, unlike last year's Super Bowl, or sometimes, like I said, obviously I was just stating Any Given Sunday, I see the Patriots running the ball a lot, same with the Seahawks. Can the Seahawks run the ball? They're both going to try to certainly keep it balanced, run it and throw it. I think the Patriots do, but I think they do the same thing. If they want to run the ball, they've certainly have been giving this look that they've, like as I've created earlier, I should say, as they've created, as I was talking about earlier, with lining up people in different positions, what they did against the Ravens, what they did against the Colts a couple of weeks ago, confusing the defense, although they've given 2 weeks and 2 games now for the Seahawks, the best defense over the past 3 years, time to prepare for it. We'll see how that pays dividends, vice versa. Maybe they'll switch it up and go to something completely different. I think they'll certainly keep people in the box, protect Brady, especially with that Seattle front. Can cause havoc with even their front four without even blitzing anyone. Sometimes they will blitz, but their people in the back end are so good at what they do that they can blitz if they need to. Run the ball on both sides. I see that from Seattle and New England Patriots. Now, when it comes down to throwing, we'll see how banged up Chancellor, Sherman, and Thomas are. And I think it's going to be maybe just banged up enough to where they're playing at a good level, but not to where they can bang you up. As in, you saw what they did to the Broncos last year. They intimidated and scared the Broncos from from play 1, and then from there on out. Same what they pretty much done over the past few weeks. They've really banged up on the offense and scared them to where they were timid and didn't really. They were scared pretty much to make a play. My point being, I don't know if Sherman, Thomas, and Chancellor, especially Chancellor, and then of course Thomas and then Sherman, can bring the bang this week. Bring their bang. Their boom, their Legion of Boom. I don't know if they're going to be able to bring it to 100%. I think their maybe play capability, instead of being at 100%, when they talk about playing at 100%, they might be only, say even if they are at 90%, all of them. I think their boom percent, if you could calculate that, will only be at maybe a 70 or 80 because of them being hurt. So you calculate those two in, because those are two really different things. A player's capability of playing a position and then really bringing a boom, a pop, that extra, I'm going to get you, you're not going to want to do that again kind of attitude to the game. So we'll see if that plays in. If it does, I think the Patriots do have a minor edge at this game. A little bit more of maybe a minor edge, being that if they do shut down the run game, which they've been proven to shut down run games this year. And 3 of the 4 games that the Seahawks lost, Marshawn Lynch was only allowed 61 rushing yards or fewer. So if you shut him down to around 60, 70 rush yards, you're going to make them pass more. And of course, as I said, I know that Russell Wilson can make plays with his feet, but enough on the New England defense, which has proven great this year, especially at times. We'll see. We'll see if Tom Brady can make up for what he's done with the past couple of Super Bowls where you think he's going to win. He goes into a perfect game after the 2007 season against the Giants. Lo and behold, the Giants have his number with the David Tyree catch. Just a few years later, you get a rematch, and I loved it because I was like, man, I wanted to see an undefeated season in the 2007 season. I just really I wanted to be a part of that. Hey, I saw an undefeated team. Well, I didn't get that, so I had that hurt, that grief, and I'll never forget of that happening. So when they played the Giants again, of course I'm for the Patriots. And and then of course that's what a lot of people remember at the end of that game. Wes Welker drops a catch that he usually would catch, thus leading to eventually New York getting the ball back and the Giants get a score to win the game again. So will Tom Brady let that happen for a third time? Boy, that would really start to tarnish his legacy, I think, in a way to where he's like, man, he was great at the early half of his career, and he still is toward the second half, a little bit more so than Peyton Manning. But boy, in that big game, he turns into Peyton Manning, where he just can't get it done all the way. And I know it's a team game, and really the defense has let him down a couple of times. The defense could have made plays to stop the Giants. We'll see if that's the case against the Seahawks. Leads to my prediction. Back to predictions. Going to start giving them. Used to all the time. We'll give it now. I think it's a close game. Tightly finesse game. I think it's sloppy at times. Final score, though, being that it is indoors, they kind of get on track. I'm going to go 27-21 New England. And I think something happens in the end to where finally New England does something that they hadn't done in the last couple of Super Bowls to win the game and doesn't let the opponent win, as if, like I said, the Giants won the last 2 in their last, it was their last possessions of the game, and they scored touchdowns to win. Didn't really leave the Patriots much time to do anything after that. We'll see what happens, though. I say 27-21, New England wins the game. Next topic, though, coaching carousel. Certainly something to get into. Of course, the Broncos. Got to get to them real quick. Gary Kubiak was signed, which I think is the right fit. But the only thing I don't like about it, they hired in, and I think he's just going to be almost the sitting duck. They hired Rick Dennison as the offensive coordinator. He was, of course, with the Broncos back in the day, and that's what's funny. It's kind of a reunion in Denver. Gary Kubiak, a former quarterback. Of course, John Elway's the GM. Of course, you know who John Elway is. Gary Kubiak, though, was the quarterback there. Then an offensive, of course, multiple positions. Then an offensive coordinator there. Of course, then went off to Houston. Then, of course, last year he was in Baltimore as the offensive coordinator. Well, they bring in Rick Dennison, who followed pretty much Kubiak everywhere, was a linebacker, which is kind of weird at Denver, but then becomes an offensive lineman coach, position coach until he was an offensive coordinator with Denver. Right after Kubiak left, he became the offensive coordinator in Denver, but then followed Kubiak over to Houston and was the offensive coordinator for him, and then last year followed him thus to Baltimore, where he was the he was the, I think, quarterback's coach and I'm certain he was the quarterback's coach for Baltimore last year, and they talked about Joe Flacco and what he had pretty much kind of turned his, I shouldn't say career, but how he'd kind of had a slump the year before, but really kind of got him going this year. But I think Rick Dennison is just kind of sit there. It's going to be more of the minds of Gary Kubiak and Peyton Manning if he decides to come back, which it looks like, we'll get into that in a second, he may or is leaning to, and he's going to make a decision quick. But I think if they mesh their offenses together, kind of what New England has done this year and bring in more offensive linemen for Peyton, bringing an extra tight end, I really should say, to where he has more protection, maybe send those guys out on routes. You have Emmanuel Sanders, you have Demaryius Thomas, and it looks like you're going to bring back Julius Thomas. Hopefully you bring those guys back, which we'll get into in a second. You bring those guys back, you have great guys around you, and you send out an extra tight end every once in a while, bring one in for protection, bring back the running backs they have. I think those offenses can mesh. You see how it helped Tom Brady this year. And what I'm going to get into next, their defense is great, or has great talent. They brought in, that's what I'm getting to, Wade Phillips now is their defensive coordinator. He's going to be running a 3-4 defense, which will certainly, and I mean most certainly, help your two big people who you think of. Well, first off, obviously, DeMarcus Ware, who he's been in touch with before, and kind of had dividends in with back in the day with being in Dallas, but also with Von Miller now being on the edge rushers run on a 3-4. You can put those guys on the very far outside with linebackers Brandon Marshall and Danny Trevathan on the inside, who they can bring back next year. And those are the two linebackers that were always hurt but replacing each other in a 4-3 scheme this year, and sometimes a 3-4. You add in some edge rushers, point being those edge rushers being, I should say, some defensive linemen. If you want to bring back Terrence Knighton, who is a guy that's up this year on free agency that we'll get into in a moment. But you bring back Terrence Knighton in the middle. You have two outside rushers with Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. That is one ferocious defense with the adding pieces. So we'll see how that pays dividends with Denver. I think that's a great approach, bringing in people who kind of know the system, can kind of mend minds. And I think that was the hire with bringing Rick Dennison as the offensive coordinator in Denver. Hey, let's get someone that knows what's going to be going on, that can certainly coach the offense, that'll just pretty much almost matriculate down saying, yep, this is what we're going to do, and not really almost be the coach. Like I said, I think it's going to be Gary Kubiak and Peyton Manning mending their minds together on an offense. Then, of course, you have Wade Phillips running the D. Chicago's, of course, leading to like I said, John Fox, the new head coach there. And I think it just kind of meshes well with bringing in, of course, they bring over Adam Gase from Denver, the new offensive coordinator. So you just bring in those two guys who've been working together for the past couple of years. Now it's going to be a third year. I think it's just great for a new general manager to have those guys who have been working together. It's exactly what you want as an owner, and that's what he was going for in Chicago. You obviously see exactly where they're wanting to go with John Fox, Adam Gase, that offense, Brandon Marshall on the outside. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I forgot he played at South Carolina. I cannot believe his name slips my mind right now. But of course, Jay Cutler at the quarterback. You get those guys on the outside, then you have Martellus Bennett as a tight end. You're going to certainly succeed in that offense with what they were doing in Denver. We'll see if they get the run game going there so much. They didn't so much. It seemed like Adam Gase. That's the only thing I didn't see so much with him in Denver, having a great running game. Hopefully he can bring that to Chicago, which I know they want to get their running back involved there. Baltimore Ravens, that's where the Bears, their former head coach, Mark Trestman, landed as the offensive coordinator in Baltimore. That was kind of why he was brought in to coach the Chicago Bears with that offense, which seems so explosive. Alshon Jeffrey, thank you, I knew it would come to my mind. As the other you have Alshon Jeffrey, and you have Brandon Marshall, massive, huge guys on the outside, and you have Jay Cutler with a massive arm, Martellus Bennett, a really big tight end. Then you have a great running back. Well, now he slipped my mind. But my point being, you have a great offense there, and he was a great offensive mind brought in there really to mold that offense. He had 1 year, and I hate to see that in the NFL. 1 year, one and done. It's just almost a waste of time, but it was almost seen as the general manager was leaving there as well. But he's now brought into the Baltimore Ravens, Mark Trestman is, to be their new offensive coordinator. He, of course, replaces Gary Kubiak. And which now leads me to the other news, where I just don't get Peyton Manning really, in sense where I'll get where he's coming back. He wants to make a decision soon, but I don't get why he doesn't want to maybe restructure his contract. That just kind of boggles my mind, and I'm going to write blog after blog, and hopefully he gets it. But he could, of course, decide early as next week that he's coming back. He wants to make it sooner than later. Wants to mend with Kubiak, the offenses. But I don't get. Okay, let me get this to you because I've looked this up. He's made 170, point being, highest paid NFL player of all time. But he's made $171 million in the 14 seasons with Colts, which led to his 5-year deal, $90+ million with the Broncos, which now, 3 years into it, he's now made $230 million over his career. Mind you, this is without endorsements. $230 million without endorsements. Next closest to what literally in the NFL is $75 million away. That's Tom Brady. He's made about $155 million. Like I said, mind you, this is all without endorsements. He made $12 million alone last year in endorsements. Peyton Manning did. And I found this from Forbes. Quote you, Forbes. NFL top product endorser earning $10 million annually off the field from companies like Reebok, Sony, Wheaties, DirecTV, Gatorade, and Papa John's over the years. $10 million a year. So he's played, 16, 17, 18 years? $10 million. That's, $10 million times all those years. You get what that is? That's another $150 to almost $200 million Peyton Manning has rung up off the field, most likely. So you add in those two numbers together, and Peyton Manning has racked in, most likely, somewhere close to the calculations of $350 and $400 million since he's been in the NFL. Peyton Manning, do you seriously need $19 million more next year? Can I have a couple of cents? But I would literally just take a roll of pennies from you. I think that would be gracious. A roll of pennies maybe to all your fans, just for fun. It boggles my mind. I don't understand it. Point being, here's two things. I know everyone reverts back, as all of my friends and fans have wrote me in the past couple of weeks and have responded to me. One of them being, anyway, we'll see if this is his real name. I don't know if it's his name. His name is Spanky Cuffs. He comes from Arkansas. Spanky Cuffs. He writes, Josh, do you remember how Peyton, and I shouldn't say Peyton, he was talking about Brady, how he just restructured his contract. And so I looked it up, and sure enough, yeah, he did. And it was a little bit different. It kind of creates more cash flow, and it's a little bit different. Everyone thinks he just restructured it to where he made more money. And what happens was, long story short, it just created more flexibility in the next year. They were supposed to pay him a bunch of money if it was guaranteed for skill. Well, they changed it to injury in case he does get injured, so they could kind of release him at any time, but they know that he knows that they're not going to, and they actually upped his salary for the next few years, just $1 million, but they pretty much released $24 million in cash flow that they were going to have to commit to him by the end of March due to a bunch of rules and regulations to the NFL, so they changed that from, like I said, skill to injury, so that way if he does get injured, they can release him and it won't cost them anything. And so that way they can free up $24 million. He'll get that money eventually. He'll get it. But that just frees up $24 million that they were going to have to eventually add to the NFL's whatever. And point being, they're going to have $24 million more to spend. Also, thus leads me, I remember more than anyone, because I'm a fan, that John Elway made the same type of thing or deal in his last year of his contract. Last year, because he knew it was going to be his last year. Point being, at this rate, here's the article I still found that's still out there. At this rate, the way John Elway is going, he's going to be playing for free at the end of this season. It was kind of, a joke. The Denver Broncos quarterback restructured his contract for the second time this year, lowering his base salary from a little right over $4 million to $300,000. You hear me? John Elway in his last year of his contract made $300,000. I remember Michael Jordan made $35 million in his last contract. Elway said, "You know what? I got to have a ring that bad. I'll take whatever it takes. I'll take a penny if we can have all that money to sign other people." Thus being, $3.75 million. I forgot what exactly went out there. Point being, $1.2 million of it went to sign their 7 draft picks that year of the draft, and they went on to sign other players sign other free agents and other players with experience so they could fill their team out. And quoted by Mike Shanahan, once again, John has helped us out. Over the years, John has given us the ability to utilize the cap to its fullest potential. He has always put the team first and himself second. Peyton Manning, did you just hear that? Do I need to repeat that? I don't think I really need to. I think $19 million is just a little too much since you made $300. You have a gambling problem we don't know about and some other problems that you've wasted $400 million that you made over your career because you made $300 to $400 million. I'm sorry. You don't need to make that next year. Please give it up. Restructure it in whatever freaking way you can and sign these other players. You need to sign some people for this team. I know I'm coming out as a fan, but that's just, I don't understand it. It's just crazy to think that someone's made that much money over their career and they certainly haven't restructured their contract to sign other players. And my point being, it's because he wants to win other Super Bowls. I know he's won one, but that's his whole thing is he wants to win more. I don't think you need to make $19 million to just, you made enough money. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you free up all that money, and you certainly can go sign some other players for the next year. I mean, even more so last couple of years. I don't know why he hasn't done that when I look over that and seeing why he even signed for that much, or even maybe signed for that much, but maybe, like I said, because 2 years were guaranteed, the last 2 years aren't. These are his last 2 years, this year, next year. Prior to the injuries he sustained this year with his quad, I thought he was going to fulfill the whole contract. I don't know now if he will. This might be his last year. So I don't know if he does come back. But, as in for his second year, I think he comes back this year. He has 1 more year for sure in him. But I thought he had 2 more in him, certainly. After the injuries that he sustained this year, depends on how they heal and how he feels. If he has, and maybe this year if they do win the Super Bowl, and he has an injury, I shouldn't say injury field, I should say a season without any injuries, none at all. He's safe, hardly gets sacked, feels great at the end of the season. Maybe he does come back for that last year, but it's like, hey, you got 2 years left, none of them are guaranteed. Restructure them so that way they can, free up some money. Literally, you can free up a lot of money and sign a lot of players, especially, as I said, you have Julius Thomas you need to re-sign. You have Demaryius Thomas you need to re-sign. You have Pot Roast in the middle there to re-sign. What are you going to do with those players. Are you going to re-sign them? You're not going to re-sign them. So we'll see what they do there in Denver. I know that they want to certainly fulfill that defense out with Terrence Pot Roast Knighton. It's just funny to say that, Pot Roast, with Terrence Knighton in the middle as a defensive tackle, and then have your rush edgers for the new 3-4 defense they'll be running all the time. And you certainly want Thomas the Thomas back. I always call him Thomas E. Thomas, Julius Thomas, and Demarius Thomas. So, Peyton, free up some cap space. I need to come up with a hashtag for that. Free cap space, PM or something like that. Just something short and catchy. Buffalo and New York Jets showing a lot of interest to get in Darrelle Revis of the Patriots. They signed him for a 2-year deal last year. Next year, it's exercise. They can either exercise or not exercise a $20 million option that's in his contract. So I doubt that's a lot of people are saying they won't. But that's another reason why Tom Brady freed up a lot of cap space. So if they want to re-sign him, they can, maybe for a lesser value. If he decides to come back for a championship or the team, he can for lesser money. But if he wants to make more money, he can certainly go back to maybe the Jets, where he played most of it in all of his career almost before he went to Tampa Bay for a year and now with the Patriots for a year, or go to Buffalo, where his former coach that coached him for his whole career pretty much, Rex Ryan, is over in Buffalo now. So we'll see what happens there. Lions, Nick Ndamukong looks like the Patriots are the front, or I should say the Patriots. It looks like the Lions, certainly I should say the Lions are the front runner. He's wanting to return back to Detroit, feels at home there. Other big names we'll get into as the season progresses and free agency really hits the market. Randall Cobb, what's he going to do up in the land of the frozen tundra? Don't know. I think Green Bay probably would like to re-sign him, but they have an emergence of Adams at wide receiver. So we'll see exactly what Randall Cobb goes. Of course, another big wide receiver on the market, Dez Bryant in Dallas. I'm sure they will probably want to re-sign him to a contract there. And DeMarco Murray kind of have the same thing. Like I said, in Denver, you have two big players. You might want to put one of them on. You're going to want to re-sign one of them, and one of them you'll put the franchise tag. We'll see, though, if they just go ahead and somehow free up enough cap space to sign both of them, or do that, as I said, put a franchise tag on one of them and sign one of them. And Aaron Rodgers wins his second MVP. It's his second overall now. He had an NFL best this year, touchdown pass to interception ratio of 7.6. It's ridiculously high. 38 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. That is great. That is almost video game numbers. Usually you don't have that in the NFL. You have some lower ratio, 3, 4, somewhere in that range, but 7.6, every 7.6 touchdowns you have an interception. That is great numbers. Best, and actually it was the 5th best ever in NFL, that 7.6 ratio. And he took in 31 of the 50 votes. That's 31 of the 50 votes. Well, that's a phenomenal amount. And J.J. Watts came in second with 13 votes. And, of course, mention the Hall of Fame, Junior Seau. That should say mention the Hall of Fame and who got in. That would be Junior Seau, Jerome Bettis, Charles Haley, Tim Brown, Will Shields, Mick Tingelhoff, Ron Wolf, and Bill Polian. Of course, they'll all get their gold jackets in Canton this coming summer. On to the next news. Got to get to Eldrick Tiger Woods. Eldrick, what is going on with you, my friend? We need to get some changes in that swing. You've failed to break 80 for the second time ever in his career, posting an 82 on Friday. Missed the cut for just the 13th time worldwide, the 12th time over on the PGA Tour, and he's missed the cut for the first time. He's done so, I should say, the first time he's missed back-to-back official tournaments. Also matched his career high worst 9-hole score of 44. But he had high hopes going to the podium, and of course, first thing he literally said, pretty much quoting Marshawn Lynch at the Super Bowl, "I'm just doing this so I don't get fined." Of course, you remember, if you didn't hear, Marshawn Lynch was saying that. Doesn't like giving interviews, Marshawn Lynch, the running back of the Seattle Seahawks, so he had to, of course, unless he was going to get fined $500,000, he had to show up for his interviews at the Super Bowl. Every question he was asked, all he said was, "I'm doing this so I don't get fined." Really irritating. Won't get into that matter right now. That was just a whole other topic, that guy. But Tiger stepped to the podium, said that, and then chuckled after that and went into how he's approaching this new swing change. From the short game to the long game. He's approaching it all over. He needs he's working on it. He'll get there. I have a feeling he'll get there. I mean, just in 2013, with this new swing change, which I could tell the whole time he was not comfortable with and did not like, and I never liked the new swing coach, and I don't like the new caddy he's with either. I hated that he had a falling out. I'm not going to get into that anyway, don't want to get into Scotty and the whole falling out with his last caddy, but He is in a swing change. I think he'll make some changes, as in he's wanting to get back to his old swing. I think what would fit him best if he just went back to Butch Harmon or Hank Haney. He just can't make amends with anybody as his old caddy. He can't make amends with his old swing coaches. And I don't want him to see him all out there on his own, all out to another person. We'll get to it at the end of the day. But Tiger, just make amends with someone, my friend, and you can do this. I think, I know, and I've said this from time and time again, but not many people, you don't hear analysts say this, and maybe they don't want to get into it, but I think if he had his father around, which he had for all of his life, all of his career, who, if he ever had a falling out like he did in 2009 with his wife and that whole situation, I think he would be able to recover a lot faster, and he would be winning by now again. But I think that not having his dad around, once again, I have to repeat that 100 times, because I think that's affected him more than anything. That was his best friend, his mentor, his idol, his everything. He doesn't have that anymore, and that's what really made him comfortable. And now he doesn't have that, so he doesn't have someone to talk to. And really, kind of, that was his therapist, and he let a lot out through, I'm sure, his father. And now that he doesn't have that, it's really hurt him. And I really hope Tiger the best, and hope he really gets his. And you can tell when he made strides right there toward the end of the day on this first round on Thursday. Looked great. 2 shots in a row looked like the old Tiger. I forgot what hole it was, a par 5, like 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there. Drove it past everybody, and he was playing with Jordan Spieth. And God, I forgot the other fellow, but long hitters, outdrove all of them by 5-10 yards. Then places his iron, huge, tall, arcing, as he used to, high arching iron shot on a par 5, hits a pretty firm green, rolls it right up there to about literally a tap in for eagle. 2 best shots, certainly, I'm sure he hit of the tournament. He hit them back-to-back succession. Just great to see, and it looked like old Tiger. So hopefully he can find that. Certainly, all in the meantime, drops out of the top 50. Rory McIlroy winning over in Dubai, and a 17-year-old Lydia Ko, taking Tiger's record for the youngest player ever to be ranked number 1 in the world professionally on the LPGA Tour, breaking Tiger's mark by around 4 years or so. But still, 17-year-old Lydia Ko takes number 1 on the LPGA Tour. That's pretty ridiculously. That's ridiculous, really, to think a 17-year-old ranked number 1 in the world in any professional sport, especially golf. Now on to the NBA. Certainly a year of surprises, as we were all expecting what this year was going to hold, with LeBron going to the Cavs, and they're 27-12 with him. Pretty good record for the first year, having an All-Star and mending all the All-Stars to go with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. But without him, they're only 2-8. Just like the Heat, they got 3 good stars, but their surrounding cast, their role players, just A, aren't that great, and B, really don't come together. Like, as I always said, why Michael Jordan is the best of all time. Making the players around you better is what will make you one of the best of all time. Look what Jordan did to people like the Steve Kerrs, the John Paxsons, the B.J. Armstrongs, the Horace Grants. I can go on and on of the world. Even Scottie Pippen, yes. If you think Scottie Pippen stayed with the Seattle Seahawks, the team he was drafted by, you think he would be up to Scottie Pippen he is today, or that we know him as? I certainly doubt it. Anyway, LeBron not making the players around him that much better. I know he makes some of them better, but not the most out of them as people like Jordan did. Anyway, we'll see what happens with the Cavs as they progress through this year. The Atlanta Hawks, wow. 40-8 on the year. 17-0 in January. The highest wins ever in a season, or I should say the highest wins ever in a month by any team. The best record, 17-0. There's a couple of 16-0s and a few below that, but no 17-0s. They've won 19 straight. Who saw that coming out of Al Horford, Cal Korver, Jeff Teague, Millsap, those guys? Did you see that? I certainly did not, I should say. How about the 1-year anniversary? Today marks the 1-year anniversary for Adam Silver. Congratulations to you, my man. Kobe on the All-Star selection. That has got to go. Got to. Seriously, why? I'm just tired of this. And then when Allen Iverson was making it late in his years, Carmelo made it again this year. Where's DeMarcus Cousins? Well, thank gosh he replaces freaking Kobe. And no Damian Lillard, which he made a comment about the snub. Come on, man. Here's the good and the bad, the ugly that I've seen so far. The good, besides Atlanta, of course, Toronto Raptors, 33-15. Did you see that? Collection of reality, I should say, reality stars. That'd be funny. Wow. A collection of really just no stars, I should say, is what I meant to say. Not reality stars. DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, Terrence Ross, just the dunker. I mean, didn't really see that coming out of him. Golden State maybe saw the progression which they've led to this year. Great job by them. 37-8. Klay Thompson, Stephon Curry, the bad boys out there. Here's the bad. Speaking of bad, Indiana, where have you gone? The Pacers, they have paced themselves out. The Thunder, they're 10th place in the West. I know they can make a run, but they're 23 and 24. The Lakers, won't even get into it. I know they've had injuries, but Kobe, just hang it up. I know you're coming back next season, but man, it's over. It's over. Here's the ugly. The Knicks. 9 and 38 are D-Fish, my man from the Rock. And then how about this? Speaking of which, the Knicks and Lakers are playing today on Super Bowl Sunday. You won't hear that. You probably won't even hear a word about it from here on out after this is posted. And what used to be a game where everyone was certain to be watching, everyone would be speaking about it, those historic franchises, both of them, won't get a peep today. NCAA basketball, Kentucky on a 21-zip run this year. That's right. I'm going to go ahead and just say that, right, because, yeah, that's right. They lost the championship game. So now they're on a 21-0 run to start the season to prove they are out to pretty much get the championship this year. Duke loses a close one earlier this week to Notre Dame, but comes back with a big win to previously undefeated number 2 Virginia. Speaking of which, number 8 Notre Dame, after they beat Duke early in the week, they lose at Pitt. Well, it was at Pitt, and that just kind of happens in conference play. But back to the other game, Duke comes back on a 16-5 run to end the game, beats number 2 Virginia at Virginia, so certainly a big win for Duke. Gonzaga wins its 15th in a row quietly to get to 22-1. They're sitting at number 3. They'll certainly move up to number 1. Kansas looking young but good as always at 18-3. Boy, if they could just get some of their young talent to stay, they would be just, oh my gosh, ridiculously good in the next year. Number 10, Louisville erases an 18-point lead to beat number 13 UNC. That was a great victory yesterday for them. And it's good to see all the disparity back in college basketball once again. You have number 12, Wichita State, number 14, VCU, number 18, Northern Iowa. Almost want to combine Ireland and Iowa there. To also see historic teams, Indiana, Georgetown, Arkansas, all being ranked, and leads me to my Razorbacks. And I'll get into this real quick. Certainly looking better. Mike Anderson trying to get the team back to where they used to be on top of the conference. And they're getting there. They just getting back to now, they were just in those close games where last year they would win all the home games but just nothing, just on the road. And they were slowly but surely getting to those games, and now getting closer and closer to getting to win those games on the road, winning a few of them, getting winning streaks together in conference play, which is needed to get to at least 500, if not to right over 500 in conference play. Certainly give yourself to that low to mid-20 win range, and certainly an NCAA conference, or I should say an NCAA bid. Certainly should be that way this year. Bobby Portis, hopefully he comes back next year, leads some talent to come back. But this was certainly supposed to be their year, maybe to get to 25, 27 wins. Gave themselves an early non-conference schedule that was a little bit harder than past years, won most of those games, lost a couple of tough ones, which then I knew once they lost at Clemson. Of course, losing at losing at Iowa State early in the year, which they're a ranked team. I was hoping that we were going to really see where they were there. Of course, they won at SMU early in the season, which that's early in the season, but it's still looking to be a good win. They go to Iowa State, really wanting to see where they were at early in the season. They just really couldn't come together, lost by like 15-20. Then they go to Clemson, another on-the-road tester. Clemson, not that great of a team, certainly should be a win for the Razorbacks. They lose it. Games they should be winning, they should be winning them late, or really be putting these teams away. They don't, kind of like they have in previous years, so yes, they're getting better, but just not at a fast rate that everyone wants to see, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens there in Arkansas. It hurts my feelings, really. It's funny to say that. It hurts my feelings, but it just hurts. You just want that progression so fast. You just think it's coming, and it just doesn't come, when you expect it to. So hopefully Arkansas and their basketball ranks will get, and they have been ranked this year. They kind of just, and that's the thing, they've been teeter-tottering that top 25 ranked, 20 to 25, where the years previous they've been working up trying to get ranked, and now that they're getting ranked, they're trying to stay ranked, so that's the next step, staying ranked. On to the last story of the week. That is on deck, your story of the week. Jermaine Taylor just kind of leads me to a bitter, sweet, not even sweet, just bitter and sour note. Sweet in a way, because he did just win the IBF middleweight championship of the world. So he held one of the 3-5 belts that there are in every boxing division. Great story. Kind of fell his way out, climbed his way slowly but surely, and maybe just because he had the name, back up to the top to have a title shot. Right before the title shot in August, in which maybe you just thought it was one of those stories where it was maybe family members of past just always coming and asking for money because another family member's got money, so you're always asking them for money. Maybe one of those situations. But point being, a couple of his family members came on his property back in August, and Jermaine went for his gun, pulled the gun out because he didn't like what was going on, scared him off, shot one of them. Charges were pressed against him. He got out of it. The judge let him train for the title shot or the title championship that he had, and he actually won the fight and looked good in it, like he has looked lately. Well, of course, okay, well, Jermaine's on top. He'll get maybe out of this, this upcoming, these upcoming charges. These people are on his property. Last time I checked, and especially here in Texas, they love to, hey, we got guns. You come on my property. I have pretty much the right to shoot you if I feel my family's in danger. We'll see how what the law was going to take, how it was going to, play its way out. But now, here's what happened. Martin Luther King Day, the parade. Everyone's got a parade, and especially here in Little Rock, we've got a parade. Well, I should say here, I'm in Dallas. We have a parade in Dallas. They've got one in Little Rock. Jermaine Taylor decides to show up. It's really close to where he actually has a boxing gym there in Little Rock. Well, Jermaine looks intoxicated to the people in attendance. He looks like he's obviously maybe drunk on prescription drugs. Something. Jermaine Taylor is certainly intoxicated of some sort. Taking pictures with fans. Eventually leads to this family with a kid. It's a couple with a kid. The kid's taking pictures with Jermaine. Well, even in the video that you do have with them videoing it and taking pictures, everything's fine. But eventually, what happened was that his girlfriend, Jermaine Taylor, even though he had a wife and kids, this is now the whole new thing. His estranged girlfriend, his new girlfriend, which I had no idea of, said that the child dropped the belt out of nowhere. Blamed the child for dropping the belt. Jermaine freaks out. I don't know why, because this isn't on tape. You think it would be right there in front of him. Jermaine would see the kid drop the belt, but the girlfriend purportedly blamed the child. Taylor pulls out a gun, pretty much threatening everyone's life in a way. Certainly shoots off a couple of shots in the round. Caps, literally a couple caps off into the air. Boom, boom. You know how they just boom. Then threatened to kill all three of them. All three of the children, I should say, that were around. Puts the gun up to father's head. That's when the wife steps in the way. A couple more shots go off into the air. Just a crazy, crazy scene. None of it, as far as I can tell, was captured on camera, I guess, because it was after everyone was done filming and pictures were done taking. That's why I don't get the scene. I guess pictures were done taken. His girlfriend blames the child. Taylor comes over saying, hey, your kid dropped my belt. Pulls out a gun. Threatens their lives. Shoots off some rounds. Then puts the gun to the dad's head. That's when the wife steps in. A couple more rounds go off. Then he leaves the scene. Of course, being with all the traffic from the parade, he's pulled over quickly. He has marijuana on him. Charged with 5 felony accounts of aggravated assault, 3 felony counts of child endangerment, and a misdemeanor of marijuana possession. He was put to jail and had a $50,000 bond, paid it. But because of his events back in August, they quickly revoked that. He had to turn himself in within 24 hours. Thus leading to a couple of videos that he posted on his Facebook page, then deleting them after, of course, luckily people from the media and everyone recorded them. But he's sitting in, one of them was with him in a bathtub, in a bubble bath. The other one was sitting with his girlfriend. Both of them just completely awkwardly weird. The one with his bubble bath, in the bubble bath, pretty much saying he was sorry, apologizing to the fans, but then getting to how the kids didn't have enough candy. The bleeping kids didn't have enough candy for the parade. I don't get where Jermaine's going off, and that's less leading to me, hopefully, now after you thinking this now maybe the shots to the head have got to him. He cleared all those tests a few years ago to get back to boxing and looked great since. Looked normal. And that's what everyone's saying. This isn't the Jermaine of old. And he had a fight on February 6th, which was just literally booked 2 to 3 weeks before this incident happened on Martin Luther King Day in the parade. Was booked to fight Sergio Moore to defend his belt, the same place he just beat Sam Solomon at the Beau Rivage Casino in Biloxi. But, of course, now that's canceled. They've got a new person to fight. And I don't know what's going to happen to the belt, his belt that he held. That's what everyone's saying. This isn't the Jermaine of old. I know Jermaine Taylor. I have met him. He was a great man. He was, like as everyone said, an ambassador of Arkansas and Little Rock. From his first fights, and I've gone back to look at matches to see what people say and just to hear them say it. The announcers that met him before, and all these different words are wrote down. Bubbly, charismatic, friendly, just so many different words to describe Jermaine Taylor and his personality. It just boggles my mind what's happened to him and how the progression has gone from you go up to him and it's what it seemed like though in the video. He was an open book. Go up to him, talk to him, he'll talk to you, but then all of a sudden maybe he now unfortunately can snap just like that. So we'll see exactly what happens with Jermaine. He now has to go to a judge. Luckily his team obviously wants to get a mental evaluation, take him to a hospital. We don't know exactly where he's at, but he is at a hospital getting a mental evaluation. Hopefully Jermaine though get some help. Who knows what happens with the belt? I'm sure his boxing career now is over, literally, which would just be, it's almost a movie. You might as well make a movie. I'd love to make a movie about his career, rise to stardom. Hearing those early tapes, he was literally the next Roy Jones Jr., the next big thing. Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, which not many people can become undisputed. That means you held all the belts. He held all 5 of the belts in the middleweight division after he beat Bernard Hopkins, to falling off the map, to then winning a belt and getting back on the track to holding a belt, maybe winning more belts. So we'll see how that story goes for Jermaine. Hopefully the best for him. I love him to death. He loves Little Rock, and I know he loves his home, and hopefully he can certainly love himself. That's what he needs to put first now and kind of realize where he needs to go, because he certainly had a great family with kids, so I don't know what happened with that. But Jermaine, I love you, my man. Get better. Tiger, get back on the course. Keep playing like you're wanting to. And Peyton, please take a freaking pay cut, because you and your season of next year is on deck, certainly next in your decision. Next week, though, Super Bowl review. We'll get to the game commercials as well. That's what a lot of girls and other people even that pretty much don't even like to watch the game. They love to see what the commercials hold. So we'll talk about the commercials, the best, the worst, certainly the game. We'll review it top to bottom. National Signing Day in college football is coming up as well. That will certainly inspire a lot of, teams for the coming season. Do they get the picks that they want? Do they get the guys that they want to get? Especially teams like the Florida Gators, who have a lot of big names right there on the edge. If they don't get them, would it be surprising and shocking to you if I told you that the Florida Gators were behind the likes of UCF, Central Florida in recruiting, Memphis? How about the Gators around 75th nationally? Yeah, they're behind a lot of teams that I can mention, and I will mention next week if they don't get a lot of players. Also, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. We just talked boxing. How about one of the biggest boxing matchups people have been wanting to see for years now? Well, now we'll see him at an aged rate. So, still a good matchup. Not as great as it would have been 3-4 years ago. Also, the story of the week next week. We'll get that with you and much, much more. Josh Smith on deck was the show. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. Listen, tell me all the things you want to hear. We'll get to you next week on deck.